Hi, I'm Kenneth, and I'm with Faezeh. Would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, hi, it's Faezeh. I'm a data engineer. I work at a legal tech company.
And what do you do there, and what does the company do?
So the company's mission is to build a AI lawyer that we are trying to augment a lawyer, basically. My side of things is the data ingestion side. I provide the high quality data in scale for the machine learning purposes. That's like the high level overview of what I do day to day.
And when you said you provide, AI tools for attorneys, are attorneys your primary customer base at the company you work at?
Yeah, so most of our customers are attorneys that they just have some legal questions that they can use our system to get answers for. We do have lawyers to provide memos for them too. Basically, they can use our tool, our product to get answers for their question, which the AI is providing the answers for.
And in terms of your specific role, what's your favorite part of your work day to day, typically?
Yeah, so there are a bunch of job functions that I have because I work at almost of a small company. I have part of my job is about, let's say, architecture design discussions that we have to optimize for an infrastructure that can handle a big amount of data that we ingest daily. So that's like the best part of my job because I get to think about solutions high level and I can like take into account different aspects of a big project and then narrow it down. And this enables me to come up with solutions of my own and apply things that I think can like apply to tools that, let's say, I think can be beneficial to us and kind of test to see what can work and what not. This gives me some leverage over maybe in the future if I want to like consult other companies with their data needs, with their architecture needs. And then the other functions that are okay, but like they're not like the top interests of mine are the data ingestion and the way that I ingest the data in our system, provide good structure that machine learning engineers can use down the pipeline and the create the data lakes that they can use. But my main interest basically lies in the first half of this discussion that I just want to create better infrastructure and create the design the architecture in a way that can be useful for machine learning engineers down the pipeline.
And for other people that might be exploring possible careers similar to yours, are there any things that you've learned that helped you, with your work in terms of researching or structuring systems architecture for machine learning purposes?
Yeah, so the thing about the data engineering side, we both have a lot of development work that we are trying to like design softwares, which requires a lot of, let's say, programming that you need to like have hands-on experience on. But on the architecture side of things, it's more cloud knowledge. You have to explore different tools that are there. For example, in Azure and AWS, there are basically tens of thousands of documentation for different tools that you can use based on your like needs, depending on how much data you're ingesting and how like what's the speed that you want to get all the data in your system, how well you want to structure it, the quality checks that make sense for your use case. We work with a lot of text data, and that requires a lot of storage. And we need to provide this information fast. Like we need to retrieve that information real fast. So that's why we host everything on AWS, and I use some of the like tools, let's say batch operations, that I highly recommend all data engineers to actually go learn from Amazon Web Services like cloud infrastructure. They have tons of trainings you can go look for. I think that's a good start if you want to start with the researching tools and all of that. Just see the cloud services that are out there that you can use. I highly recommend Amazon Web Services because they both have the trainings and also a lot of tools and documentations that you can learn and just explore to see what you like more. and it gives you like a lot of variabilities for what you want to actually apply to your use case.
In terms of balancing out things that tools that you're familiar with and are concurrently already using
Mhm,
versus using new tools or libraries,
mhm.
how do you balance out that decision-making process
Yeah.
yourself?
So for me, because that's like I think dependent on the kind of company you work for. I know for big tech companies, or let's say if you work in a bank, probably most of the things are pretty outdated. They're not that agile to adjust with the new technologies that are out there. Like there are new data service tools on, let's say, on Amazon Web Service or Azure that most big companies or banks don't even know of. They don't spend any like innovation time exploring those sites. But for us, because we are more of an agile side, I do at least learn one new tool of a sprint, let's say a 2 week sprints. I learn at least one new tool each sprint, which is a little bit faster than most companies, let's say. So the way that I balance it is we do need some sort of a structure to go with the day to day, but because we're trying to solve for something that hasn't been solved before, we need new tools. We definitely need new tools. So I do once in a week for
Got it.
acceleration. Yeah.
And before we wrap up this section on your work, final question is, are there any professionals that you're interested in meeting or having conversations with or kind of possibly learning from? And, what would those people be?
I think because I'm more interested in the consulting part, if I can like meet up with consultants for big companies just to see like how they suggest and recommend different architecture and how they can sell their ideas, I think that could be like really interesting to me and really helpful if you can meet up with those kind of professionals.
And thanks for your time on this section. We'll be wrapping up this and then going more into information about organization and personal growth will be continued on for the YouTube content or the podcast content.
Sure. Thank you.
And so going to that now, uh, do you take notes or do you journal? And what purpose do these activities serve for you?
Yeah, so I do journal daily. Part of it is for personal purposes, the other part is for professional. So I do have a journal that I keep my thoughts in because usually, like, I have a high throughput of ideas that come to my mind that if I don't write them down, I'll most probably forget about them. And this helps me to, first of all, write down the ideas so that I can get back to them once I have a chance to like review. The other part of it is I have a better understanding of the kind of tasks I want to achieve personally and professionally. And also for that's like the task site that I have like bullet points of all the things that I need to accomplish. And just like crossing them out helps a lot with being organized and on top of my routine every day, both personal and professional. And for the professional side of things, I do take notes over the meetings because, as I said, for the architecture design discussions that I have with like other team members, I do need to write down the ideas so that I can touch on them later, like at the end of the meeting or the next meetings after I've spent some time exploring those ideas. So if I keep the journal rather than just like putting it on a note on some channel that I probably forget about, it's better for me to like write them down and like be on top of that too. And then at the end, it also because it has a better way for me to like review everything at the end of each sprint. So I know the ideas that I developed, the kind of tasks I took on, and everything. Like it just helps me know what I've achieved, what I want to achieve, and other ideas for later sprints or later days or weeks for down the road. That's how I stay organized. Journaling helps a lot. I do have like a journal that has like a note section and also day to day to do lists. So I try to like optimize for the task on the day to day and then the notes for ideas.
And and as you're saying this, it sounds like you write on paper for most of this process. Is that true or is that a wrong assumption?
Yeah, I do write on the paper. I'm a little bit more old school on that. I do have a calendar that I like keep a record of all the tasks and all the meetings and all the things that I need to achieve. I mean, the calendar is not on paper, but the journal that I have is paper because I think it's a less distraction because I just put down everything there, and it helps me stay organized better than just a calendar or the maybe the note section on my phone, which could be so random. So I do prefer the on paper one rather than just a digital version.
Got it. And so this notebook or journal that you're writing in, so you have tasks to do lists.
Hmm.
Um, what's your process with that? Do you like how often do those tasks span multiple days, or is that task that you anticipate achieving within the next day, 24 hours or so? Like what's on that list
Hmm.
exactly? And how does it like function?
I have a few pages with for each week that I can use. One for random ideas that just like pop into my head that I feel like I can explore later. This doesn't have any timeline. Like I know that I can get to this maybe a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now. And then the other part is I have the things that I think are on top of my head that I think I should get done. And because I want to stay on top of it, I try to get them done as soon as possible. So it's more likely to be a 24-hour cycle thing. Like, you have to get this task done. It doesn't matter if it's like a small or like a big project. I try to like write them down to know what needs to be done immediately. And then when I try to think about them, like let's say I write everything down, now I think about each of those tasks, then I either get them done immediately or I think it's a component of all the other side tasks or trial tasks I need to achieve. Then I create another list and I try to get those done and like write them off my list. So it's more like a short term thing. Like I don't write things on my to do list that I know I wouldn't be able to like cross out after a day or two, like maximum 2 days. The one that I have for more long term, it's on our board that we use for professional purposes. Like we have a board of all the tasks we need to done, and they all have like a story points. Like let's say this will take 3 days, 4 days. Like if I want to go more long term, I try to go there. But for day to day, that I'm just like on top of everything, I use my paper journal and I just write down the tasks, and they usually don't take more than a day or two to finish.
Got it. And with those tasks, do you actually physically cross things off as you finish them, or like what happens?
Yeah, I think it gives me like a dopamine fix, like if I cross them out. And that's why I have like a separate list for like smaller tasks because if something is big and I feel like I cannot cross them out like immediately, it kind of like gets me a little bit like on low motivation side. So what I do is I write the small ones down so that I can cross them out one after another during the day, and it gives me a feeling of being accomplished and being productive, and it like keeps me going. So I do cross them out. Like I put it that also for the task. I mean, at the professional side of things that are more long term, I put it at the merge and done side, so that I feel like, oh, I have accomplished this task, and it gives me a little bit of a motivation, let's say.
Got it.
Yeah.
Outside of tasks,
Hmm.
how do you write in terms of just ideation? Do you journal? When does this happen? And is there a reason why you pick a specific time to do this type of thing?
Yeah, so beside the task, I write down ideas and my feelings down and how I see my day. And I usually do this in the morning. The reason I do it is I have more discipline in the morning because during the day it gets busy and it's easier for me to say, okay, I'll get it done tomorrow or like just put it off for now. But if I do it in the morning while I'm having my coffee, for example, I get my coffee, I just sit down and I write down everything I'm feeling and all the ideas that are in my head. And usually I'm the most productive in the morning. So I have a lot of like ideas that rush into my head as soon as I wake up. So if I write them down, it helps me to remember them rather than just like doing it during the day, which like for me has a lot of distractions because everybody's up and they're pinging you here and there. So it's not easy to do. So I prefer mornings for that reason. The other reason is I am a morning person myself. So I usually wake up really early. So this gives me like a distraction free time that is for me to just journal my ideas and like think about ideas without any distractions. And like I do this daily almost every day unless I'm like in such a rush that I don't have the time for it. And I do it while having my coffee because this acts as a clue because we won't forget to have our coffee in the morning. So if I have that and then I remember, oh, it's time for journaling and I sit down and I write down everything, usually it doesn't take more than 15 minutes, depending on the day. Sometimes I also write down the like dreams. It helps me with processing the emotions and like avoid brain fog and like it boosts productivity for me.
Sounds like the coffee is like almost like kind of like habit stacking.
Exactly. Exactly. That's the other thing. I also wanted to say like it's the you do need habit stacking if you're trying to like add a habit to your life, like just the Atomic Habit books. You do need the habit stacking and just adding clues to your life that make you want to do that. So for me, it's I already will drink my coffee, so I stack the journaling right after that, and then whatever comes after, let's say working out, taking a walk, or and same goes with nights. I'm not that consistent with nightly journaling because like it's just I get like super tired and I forget about it. But I do put another journal beside my bed that I just think about doing this before bed, but it's not that consistent. That's mostly like a reflection of everything that happened that day. And like that also helps with feeling accomplished at the end of the day and helps like to have a better, let's say, sleep.
Got it.
Yeah.
And in terms of the timeline of what you're writing and how long it's useful, is it primarily just for that day? Do you ever go back and look at previous things
Mhm.
you wrote in your journal? When does that occur? Almost like a retro, or does that you don't really use it for that purpose?
So I do take a look at it every week. So at the end of each week, so the way that I have this journal that I found randomly at a store, at a bookstore, it has another page after each week that you can like almost reflect on the week. It is like a bigger page compared to the daily tasks that you do or daily journalings that you do. So the way that I go about it is every week over the weekend, usually I take a look of all the ideas and I reflect on them. I reflect on whether or not I want to pursue this idea anymore because sometimes you feel like if it's a brilliant idea, but like a few days pass and then you're like it's not that much of a big idea and then you don't really want to pursue it. So at the end of the week, I narrow it down to things that I want to pursue, and then I put it on the list of tasks I want to achieve for the next week. That's like how I come up with the podcast ideas for each week, like based on the ideas that just cross my mind during the week. And I, because I will not have the time to pursue them right after when I journal them in the morning, it's good to just do it over the weekend or a day that you get. So it is, I go back to them pretty often. Sometimes also during the week, I feel like kind of bored and I just, see the journal to see what ideas I had that week. But yeah, usually it's like over the weekend.
Has it historically kind of been on a weekly basis for you as a process?
So before that, it was more random. Before I had this journal, I do have a lot of journals, like, and I pick them based on just the aesthetics. And then like I usually just organize it based on how it looks like and the way that it has the pages structured. Sometimes it was just random, like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, depending on when I got a like a blank page I could reflect on. But right now with this current one, it has been for past year at least, it has been weekly. I do weekly reflections. Of course, there are sometimes like there are weeks that I miss this, but usually it's once a week for a year now.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I was just curious if it was like weekly based off of, initially maybe because weeks are a natural organization process, or maybe like some sprint cycle
Yeah.
process that you also kind of integrate into your life.
No, usually it's not, but it kind of helped me with the design of the podcast, I guess, or like the weekly things I plan. This was just coincident,
Yeah.
but
And
yeah, I do this weekly.
and in terms of the podcasts that you're involved with,
Hmm.
um, like it might be useful for the audience to know what your podcast is currently about, and
Hmm.
it'll provide context into like how you're using
Hmm.
your journaling to
Sure.
improve
Uh,
it.
Sure, I can touch on that. So my podcast is mostly self-help, and it's just all the ideas that I have that can help boost our mood, boost productivity, our relationships, our health, and all of that, just like self-help and self-improvement, because that's what I'm mostly passionate about, and that's what helped me like change my life completely. And it started with just some books, and then more podcasts that I listen to, and I realized I want to have an audience that I can influence using my content. And this journaling really helped me with the ideas, because you can get sometimes of a writer, just the same thing as a writer's block that you get. You can have it for podcasting too, because you run out of ideas no matter what you're doing. So with this journaling, I rarely run out of ideas, because when you're writing them down every day and you just want one idea a week, you can pick the best one. And it really helps with the quality of the content you're producing. And then because it's also inspired by my day to day, I think it resonates a lot with my community, because I'm connected with them over social, so they kind of know what I'm going through. And then when I put that idea into a podcast, they can understand and grasp the ideas better. So when I do this weekly, I'm reflecting on like what has happened before, and I choose the best one, and the one that I feel is resonates the most with me, and what I think is going to help people a lot, because it helps me go through that phase of my life, and just like fix that issue that I had like with those ideas. So that's how I go about it. But the context of the podcast is mostly just self-help and self-improvement, the way for people to just get some ideas of how they can get 1% better.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We'll be wrapping up. Any final notes or advice on taking notes or journaling or staying organized that you have?
I would say use stickers and colors. That's how I do it. But I know that some people just want to go with one color. But I think for productivity and organization, it helps a lot if you are using different colors. So what I do is I use blue for ideas, I use green for emotions, and I use black for tasks. But this is just my personal preferences. You can have your own, but it helps when you're looking through your journal. It helps you just by one look, you know what's expected of you and what you were doing the previous week. The other one with the stickers, the journal that I have, it has a lot of stickers that you can put. Okay, coffee date with my friend, brunch with that friend, and then you can just like put it on your calendar, and just by one look with those stickers, you have an idea of what to expect from the upcoming week when you're trying to see how your week looks like. So that's what I recommend, like as a final note on journaling. But I think it's like mostly personalizing it. Um, Journals are for a way for you to just be in touch with your brain and your what your mind is going through. So for some people, it's mostly just like writings. For some are like mostly structured in a way, like colored stickers, stick notes. So whatever works for you. For me, it's coloring and stickers for sure.
That's a good idea. I only have one color and no stickers, so
Yeah.
I might experiment with this.
Yeah, it's I think it can really help with I studied this at a course at college that can help the boost productivity using different colors. So I use it in my journaling too.
All right, thank you for your time, and we'll be wrapping up.
Thank you. Bye.